Are you a Titan feeling a bit left out with Prismatic? I mean, Hunter's got Stylish Executioner, Warlock's got Feed the Void, and you got Knockout. Well, we're going to be bringing Titans back to the invincible tank status that will have you tanking even the Witness himself and still put out some solid damage in the meantime. So today, we're going to be combining our Prismatic Titan subclass with the brand new Ergo Sum exotic sword to turn us into a Witness slaying, wave frame slanging tank of a Titan. Now the idea of this build is to tank our way into fights and use our infinite ammo sword to decimate adds and supercharge our transcendence meter, which we can then use to run around spamming infinite consecration slams to incinerate everything. This will also allow us to quickly charge our Twilight Arsenal super, giving us great single target damage, but also applying a weaken debuff, allowing the whole fire team to do 15% more damage to enemies. So with the right exotics, fragments, and artifact mods, this build is sure to become the ultimate team support tank in any activity, whether it be raids, GMs, dungeons, or more. Now we'll have timestamps in the video, we'll also have a Mobalytics link below, but having a complete understanding of how to play this build properly will only make your life easier. Now for our abilities, we want our Twilight Arsenal super for the debuff and ease of use. We then take Strafe Jump and Shackle Grenade, and then we also want Thrusters and Frenzied Blade as our class item in melee, because they will tie in directly with our aspects, Dranger's Lash, and Consecration. Now Dranger's Lash states that activating your barricade will create a ripple in reality that travels forward across the ground, suspending and damaging targets it hits. However, with Thrusters specifically, it actually spawns a Tangle that does a suspending AoE burst, similar to that of the Wanderer aspect on Warlock. This means that you can run into a group of adds and pop this to suspend everyone around you, versus the normal Dranger's Lash, which requires you to aim the suspending wave at enemies. Now our second aspect is Consecration. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of solar energy forward, damaging and scorching targets in front of you as you leap into the air. While airborne, activate your charged melee again to slam to the ground and create a second larger wave of damaging solar energy, with the second wave igniting any scorched enemies it hits. This is perfect for dealing with groups of adds, chunking high health targets, and stunning unstoppable champions. We can also spam Consecration Slam after Consecration Slam when we are Transcendent, essentially turning Transcendence into its own full-fledged solar super. Now for our fragments, we are aiming to enhance our survivability while also increasing the speed at which our Transcendence charges. Additionally, since we are not using Knockout, we get 6 fragment slots instead of 5. Now starting off, we want Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and while Transcendent, this effect is increased. Now this is believed to be around a 15% in damage reduction, however when stacked with Transcendence damage resist, it works out to be approximately 32%. Next we want Facet of Blessing, where melee final blows will start health regeneration, and while Transcendent, melee final blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies. This will allow us to freely use our Transcendence Consecration Slam with the 32% damage resist with Facet of Protection, along with the healing from Facet of Blessing, truly making it feel like an actual super, damage resist and all. Thirdly, we want Facet of Awakening, because rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage, or super final blows, generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. Now this means we can spawn Ionic Traces, Void Breaches, Tangles, Fire Sprites, or Stasis Shards. Now all of these aside from Tangles grant some form of ability energy, which alone is very strong. However, the true strength is when we pair this with our fourth fragment, Facet of Honor. Facet of Honor states that collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a Tangle grants Transcendence energy of the same damage type. Now this is an easy way to supercharge our Transcendence timer, and because every elemental pickup spawned with Facet of Awakening is tied to its own cooldown timer, we can now easily spawn every elemental pickup in the game, which will net us massive gains from taking advantage of the synergy of these two fragments. For our fifth fragment, we want Facet of Purpose, where picking up an Orb of Power grants us an elemental buff based on your super damage type. Since we are using the Twilight Arsenal super, this will grant us a Void Overshield, which provides further damage resistance. Lastly, we want Facet of Hope, which grants increased class ability energy when you have an elemental buff. Now this seems to be approximately a 60% boost, and since we will always have an elemental buff, we will maintain that boost constantly. Now this buff could be from picking up an orb for a Void Overshield from Facet of Purpose, or from the restoration that we gain from our exotic armor of choice, the Stronghold's exotic gloves. Now Stronghold's exotic perk, Clenched Fist, states, maximizes guard stats on equipped swords. You take reduced damage while blocking with a sword, and rapidly damaging targets after blocking shots with a sword grants restoration for a duration determined by the number of shots blocked. Now I'm sure most people know how busted strongholds are, even in endgame, but for those of you who may not know, guarding grants a 50% damage reduction, which stacks with Facet of Protection, and blocking damage grants stacks of Perfect Guard. Subsequently, damaging enemies grants up to 16 seconds of restoration times 2 at max stacks. Now the biggest problem with stronghold builds have always been the ammo economy of swords. However, with the release of the final shape, Bungie released a special ammo sword, Ergo Sum, which rolls with random perks from other exotics and can roll in different archetypes. Now my favorite with this build is this Arc Wolfpack Waveframe sword. Now this allows us to increase single target damage with Wolfpack rounds, add clear with the Waveframe attack, and as this is an arc weapon, rapid arc final blows will create an ionic trace. Now ionic traces will track to you and grant 12% energy to every ability, which only further increases our ability spam to levels I don't think I have seen on any other build on Titan, including Heart of Inmost Light builds. And the beauty of this being a special ammo sword is because we can generate special ammo for the whole fire team with the correct mods. So here are the mods you need. On the helmet, we want Arc Siphon, Harmonic Siphon, and Hands-On for orb generation and super uptime. On the gloves, we want Firepower and Heavy Handed for more orb generation, and Impact Induction to feed our grenade regen. On the chest, we want Charged Up, 1 damage resist mod, and a copy of Lucent Blades. On the boots, we want Recuperation for health on orb pickup, along with Stacks on Stacks and Elemental Charge for more armor charge. Lastly, on the class item, we want Proximity Ward, Powerful Attraction, and Special Finisher. As you can see, we've leaned heavily into gaining armor charges with both orb pickup and collecting elemental pickups. With these mods, you should never run out of sword ammo on your Ergo Sum, because just by hitting a finisher with 3 armor charges, you will generate special ammo for the whole fire team. But believe it or not, this build can still get stronger, because we have yet to introduce the artifact mods. The important ones are going to be Shield Crush, which increases the damage and regeneration rate of your melee when you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or a Void Overshield, and likewise increases the damage and regeneration of your grenade when you have Amplified or Radiant. Since we will gain Radiant on Orb Pickup, and Orb Pickup will grant us Overshield for Facet of Purpose, we will again constantly take advantage of even more ability spam. We then want Transference for more ability damage while Transcendent, Galvanic Armor for more damage reduction while Amplified, Blade Stamina for sword ammo on rapid defeats, and Radiant Orbs for increased weapon damage, which applies to our sword on orb pickup. So now we have easy access to Restoration times 2, Radiant, and Void Overshields. Now the gameplay loop is very simple. Block with your sword to gain stacks of Perfect Guard, and damage targets to gain Restoration. Damage targets to gain Restoration times 2, and rapidly defeat targets with Ergo Sum for orbs and ionic traces. Swap off your sword and start spamming Consecration, collecting elemental pickups as you go. Since we already have Arc, Strand, and Solar forms of damage, I recommend the Stasis Area Denial Frame Grenade Launcher, Lost Signal, or as I like to call it, Legendary Wither Horde, to spawn Stasis Shards, and Commemoration to create Void Breaches. You now have access to every elemental pickup, all on their own cooldowns. Once Transcendent, pop that and spam Consecration Slams to your heart's content. Use your super on high health targets and bosses to debuff them, or chunk damage, and hit finishers with 3 armor charge to spawn special ammo for the whole fire team. This build truly has a place in any activity, and for all my Titans out there, I hope you enjoy this, because as someone who dabbles in the consumption of crayons myself on occasion, I have never had so much fun playing on Titan. If you made it to this point in the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you liked the video to help the algorithm serve this juicer of a build up to your fellow crayon eaters.